Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh Saad Sangat Ji. So we've brought a tribute show to you today. So it's the Sixth Federation UK tribute show with regards to the demise or in the memory of Bhai Avtar Singh Ji Khanda. So as you will be aware, over the last few days, there's been a bit of a whirlwind of grief, a shock, a horror as to what's transpired. So if we go back about 1.5 years to the Kasani Morcha, Deep Sidhu came to rise at that point, and he took the Kasani Morcha to such a peak. And Bhai Avtar Singh Khanda was very active with Deep at that time as well. And we all know what happened in this 1.5 years. So Deep Singh Sidhu lost his life in mysterious circumstances. Deep was very close to Bhai Avtar Singh Ji Khanda, and their families were close because of the Shaheed Singhs, and they all kind of were very close as families. And then what's happened is throughout this 1.5 years, what's been going on is we've lost one young life after another. Punjabi Sikhs have been losing their lives, whether they be celebrities or whether they're vocal about Sangharsh. And then with what's happened recently with the Varis Punjab the movement, Khalsa Wahir, Bhai Avtar Singh was very active in that movement as well. Now, if we look at what's been going on for, you could say, 7 to 8 years minimum, the Indian state has been actively attacking Bhai Avtar Singh Ji, made his life very difficult. Due to the Khalsa Wahir, they picked up his family, his mother and his sister. You could say he was being mentally tortured through that activity by the Indian state. So now he's lost a couple of days ago, has left a massive hole in the Bantak circles. So we've got some guests online with us today on this special show. So Jaswinder Singh, Mankamal Singh, Gurpreet Singh, and Dabinderjit Singh. ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ we'll say Fateh to everyone. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. So, Jas Singh, we'll start with you. If I'm completely honest with you, this personality, we keep making this mistake again and again. We only realize once we've lost the soul that what a great service he was doing to the Panth. We keep making this mistake again and again. And I think the introduction I've done, it probably does a disservice to Bhai Saab. Tusi ki kahonge? What do you say, please?
Yeah, and I think the news on Thursday, the 15th of June, basically sent shockwaves around the world. And in fact, it was really on the 12th of June when we started to hear news that he went into hospital and was severely ill. I think all of the Panthak Gursikhs around the world were concerned because of the sudden nature. I mean, we all met Avtar Bhaji on the June rally on the 4th of June and had been in regular contact with him. And there was nothing that indicated that his health was in such a bad state that really 2 weeks later he would leave us all. I mean, it's important to give an update of what we know because there's been a lot of speculation, there's been a lot of narrative, and I think it's important for all of our listeners, especially those given the age of Avtar Khanda. He was only 35. He was well known to all the Naujawan, not only in the UK but all around the world. And there are a lot of questions. I think we've all been fielding calls every day. But just to sort of highlight who Khanda Bhaji was, I mean, he came to the UK in 2007. I really came across him, and I think it was over 2013, 2012, sorry. And he would have been, in his mid-20s then, early 20s. And the first time I heard him speak was at Guru Nanak Gurdwara Smedek on the stage, and you were just drawn to his delivery. to his knowledge of the Sangharsh, to his passion for the Qawm and the Panth, and his true, genuine dedication and desire for the Qawm to move forward, work united, and achieve our goal of our Sikh homeland. And it was only afterwards I realized he was the son of Mahan Shahid Kulwant Singh Kukrana, whose photo is even at our Derby Gurdwara. And then I sort of got introduced to him when we spoke, and we grew ever closer ever since. And I think same with all the other panelists. I think the one thing I did want to share first off really is what really happened, or what do we know that happened? And just for clarification, there's still a lot of suspicion around and a lot of mystery. But from what we do know, Avtar Baji went into hospital. His health was not well over the last week or so. He was finding himself struggling for breath. He was complaining of pain in his body, his chest, his stomach. And typical sort of tried to ignore it or thought he'd get over something. Didn't really bother going to the doctor, should we say. And then he got really bad in that he had to call an ambulance on Sunday night. He was admitted into Sandwell Hospital, where they checked him over. They did various tests and realized that he had multiple concerns with his stomach, his chest, his leg pains. And they then transferred him to Birmingham City Hospital, where he underwent various blood tests, various other tests. And it's from those tests that they then gleaned that he had a very high white blood cell count, which indicated that he had blood cancer in his system. And they were also more primarily concerned with blood clots, which were the cause of his pain in his leg, his shortness of breath. And upon further scans, they identified that there was a blood clot actually in his lungs. And those who will know DVT and the severity and the concern around blood clots, when they get the lungs, it can be really quite dangerous, especially difficulty in breathing. And so they put him onto oxygen. And on Tuesday morning, there was a long conversation with the senior doctor at City Hospital. And in that conversation, the doctor outlined that, yes, they were aware that Khanda Bhaji had blood cancer. They weren't sure of the severity of it in terms of what stage it was at. That was something that they would wait for further tests on, and the hematology department would be working on. But they also were not sure in terms of how widespread or how long he'd had the condition. But that wasn't their serious concern. It wasn't the immediate concern for them right there. The doctor did say this day and age there was a number of remedies or treatments for leukemia, is what they call it. Their immediate concern was really the blood clots and the nature of them, where they were, and the number of them. And that's what they were focused on and treating. He was having 2 injections a day for blood thinning. But again, it was a challenge because with the high white blood cell count, trying to thin the blood at the same time, it was proving more complicated than it normally would do. But however, even on Tuesday morning, the doctors were hopeful that, as soon as we can get these clots under control, we should be able to then discuss further treatment for the identified blood cancer. And then on the Wednesday, he was on oxygen. Some Gursikhs went to see him. They met him. He was speaking. He recognized them. And it was really Wednesday evening that he started to deteriorate in terms of his oxygen levels, that he was really struggling for breath. And the doctors at that time decided to really need to put him onto a ventilator because they were struggling from the scans to really clear the blood clot in his lungs. And the threat in all of this was that the blood clots would move to his heart. And ultimately, rather than the clots diluting and the blood thinning and that easing, it was the opposite that happened, that on Thursday early morning, that the blood clots that he had, the multiple blood clots that he had in his system, traveled to his heart. And while he was on the ventilator, they caused him to cardiac arrest early Thursday morning. and that's what led to to his to his death. And he passed away at the early hours, I think 12:30, 12:45, early Thursday morning. And as the news broke, everybody sort of rushed to the hospital, rushed to Birmingham. And there now what's triggered off is a number of sort of pathology reports, toxicology reports. Khanda's case was highlighted, and we'll touch on that in a little later in terms of where we are now. But I thought it was important to share what his actual health condition was. And whilst the doctors were all well aware of his stomach complaints and the other ailments he went into, their primary risk was the blood clots, and I think that's what ultimately caused it. However, there remains mystery and suspicion around the sudden creation of the blood clots, and that's something that we'll carry on and we'll explore with the coroner and the various doctors. But there are wider factors here, but I thought it was important to at least share with the Sangha in terms of what we know, which was what's been shared so far.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Jazz. So, Asal Sangaji, so we'll discuss with the rest of the panel now as well what their views are. But from what we're hearing from the Sangatan, like I said, within 1.5 years, we've had so much nuksan in the Panthak personalities, and they seem to be the younger kind of vocal kind of voices that we're losing. And in such a short space of time, yeah. So with what happened to Varis Punjab, Depai Amrapal Singh, how the whole movement's literally been shut down. We had the other morche going on at the same time, whether it be a Bandi Singh morche and the Pani Wale Masle. And Bhai Saab, Bhai Avtar Singh Ji was our voice, it seemed, in the UK that connected us across to India. And with what the movement was doing over there, he was a person that we could trust. And looking back now at his speeches and his videos, it seems that kind of void is going to be very difficult for us to fill. Bhai Mankamal Singh Ji, main thode wala hoona. Coming over to you. What do you think? So what the Sangatan are suspecting is there is some kind of possibility of foul play, because if you look at how the Indian state was attacking Baisab, even up to the last few days, yeah, anything that they could pin on Baisab, they were doing that. And we've seen cases previously where agencies from other countries sometimes attack people across the other side of the world. Where we had a Russian case, I think it was, where some kind of radioactive weapon or chemical was used to make someone ill, and he died in a short space of time. What do you think, Mankamal Baisab? What do you think of this kind of thought process?
So, I mean, look, the thought process, if you want to trail back the thought process, so we found out it started going out in the Sikh circles that Bhai Avtar Singh's unwell. Probably late Tuesday. I think first time I've heard of it was Tuesday at some point. By late Tuesday, Wednesday, what we started seeing on Twitter were tweets that were basically coming from Indian sources. And what they were claiming, they themselves, those sources were claiming that Avtar Singh has been poisoned. And it was almost, feeding the whole conspiracy that, first, we've done it in India, we've done it in Pakistan, and now we've done it in the UK, and Canada will be next. They're very explicit tweets out there that are stating this. And, people can refer to that. All you need to do is type in Avtar Singh Khanda and read through some of those tweets that did start appearing late Tuesday, early Wednesday. Now, none of us at that point in time thought about, the issue about poisoning or anything along those lines. At that point in time, we were concerned about Avtar Singh's health. But that certainly started through those tweets. Take it back a few more days, and it was really strange. The reporting on Avtar Singh had ramped up again on Twitter and from Indian media sources. Avtar Singh was being portrayed as the mastermind behind the scuffle and the flag incident that took place outside India House in March, late March. So Avtar Singh was being misrepresented as being arrested. and as though the British authorities had taken him in. Now we know that wasn't the case anyway. That hadn't happened, and we also know that the authorities had arrested one individual for some criminal damage around India House, but even that person hasn't been charged. But it was being sort of largely exaggerated within the Indian media, and we saw the NIA issue some images as well just a few days before by Avtar Singh's death as well. So there was this sort of ramp up on social media that was sort of fueling this sort of
Character assassination.
Well, character assassination, and it's not uncommon. I mean, we've seen character assassinations. We're used to character assassinations. It's been going on for 40 years, if not longer. It goes back to the times of the gurus as well. Character assassinations, but we're seeing it more and more over the last few years, and especially now in these last movements. The way they're character assassinated by Amritpal Singh, the way they're currently assassinating by Amritpal Singh, and also how they prepared the ground for that assassination on Avtar Singh. Now, I tell you what, Avtar Singh was the humblest person I knew in terms of those attacks, because I know that if I was being personally attacked that way, I wouldn't handle it, in that way. I would have thought about legal challenge and all that. And if every time I spoke to Avtar Singh about that, he sort of took it in his stride as that, well, this is sort of the expectation. This is what comes with the territory. This is what comes with putting your head above the parapet. So it's a very sort of humble approach to all of that. But I'm sure that also got to him at some point. The amount of attack. I mean, we can go into it more, and others will have more to talk about the demonization of Avtar Singh Khanda, which started in 2015, as far as I remember. But for me, Avtar Singh lived in Ilford when he first came to Britain for a period of time. So I knew him in the local Sangat. I didn't know he was a Shahid Singh's son, but he was very prominent. He stood out, the way he looked and the way he carried himself. So he sort of stood out in the Sangat anyway. And he would be at various different morche in the late 2000s, early 2010s. But as time went on, and he sort of emerged, his personality sort of opened up more. We found out more about Avtar Singh and what his background was, and and now we're finding out even more with some of the speeches that he's left behind. But I'll let others contribute as well. I'm sure they've got more to say.
Anji, so by Gurpreet Singh ji, coming over to yourself. So with over 5.5 years now, I think Jagdar Singh Johal, your brother, has been in an Indian prison, and there was a whole team of Singhs working very hard, and some of those things were attacked as well by the governments to try to shut them up, almost, it seems. What do you think of Baisab's demise? How does that impact that that struggle? And how do you feel about how it'll impact us going forward?
Kuldeep Singh, as many of see, just trying to digest he's gone is unbelievable at the moment. Just thinking that he's gone, it's like we were talking about it just now. It doesn't feel real. I know we have to live it on. It feels as if this is just like earlier on. I felt as if Khanda's just going to give me a call and say, "Bye, I'm Scotland on a I'm coming to Scotland. Are you free and can we meet?" Because he would often do trips. On Thursday, I'm going to start off with something which is on Thursday. Jaggi phoned after some time. And I said, as soon as he answered, because he got the call, was from Delhi, I seen it on my phone, and I picked it up, and I said, "Jack, it's bad news." And he said, "I've just seen something on the media. Please tell me it's just propaganda." And I said, "No, it's true." And straight away, Jaggi went quiet. For a couple of minutes, he didn't talk at all. He's crying on the other side of the phone. I know it's hard for us to say, look, grown-up men crying, and he just went totally quiet. Tears are coming down my eyes because every time you just think about what's happened, it's a really, really big loss to not just the Pant, but to every Naujawan, because he connected with everyone. Even though he didn't speak fluent English, with his Punjabi, he was able to speak to the mass. And he's a big loss. I got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning by Advocate Manjpur. He said, "Paji, what's happened?" And I'm still sleeping. I woke up and I'm saying, Baji, nahi, he was okay and as serious, but he's okay. He goes, well, please look on the social media because everybody's presenting this. So the
Mm.
closest person I could think of, I phoned them straight away. And I've woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they've confirmed that it's true. And straight away, I don't know what to do. Um, got up in the morning, told my wife, told my nanny just sitting there, looking on the same place where Khanda was sitting with her and saying, and this is her exact words, ਉਹ ਤੋਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਤਾਂ ਬੈਠਾ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਜੱਗੀ ਨੇ ਵਾਪਸ ਆ ਜਾਣਾ ਮਾਤਾ ਏਦਾਂ ਨਾ ਕਰ ਜੱਗੀ ਦੇ ਜਨਮ ਦਿਨ ਤੇ ਘਰ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਉਹਨੇ she's sitting crying she only met Khanda 3-4 times throughout the whole campaign but Khanda always made an effort to come and see her at the house in Dumbarton. Dumbarton's not just in Glasgow, it's actually further out and he would always come out and even today I spoke to Khanda's sister and my nanny's at the back saying Haji bhi mainu udda hi dasan diya wa that he's sitting in this house at this time. I'm sharing that because that's the kind of effect he had and that's the kind of effect he's had with a lot of bujurgs. And when you're looking at it, Kuldeep Singh, you're in Gurukar a lot and you'll see a lot of Mata coming in and saying Avtar Singh na bahut mara hoya, what's happened is not good because he was so young. So it's been difficult to try and digest that. It's been difficult to know that Jaggi's sitting in jail and he's not even able to talk to people, whereas we can talk to one another and talk about the good times of Khanda. Because in my mind, it's still going. He's just going to phone up and say, "Bye, Katia, I'm coming to Scotland. Bye, have you done this for me, or have you done this?" That's the mind. That's the voice I keep hearing. For Jaggi's campaign, he stood up. There's no doubt about it. Wherever Khanda was called, he stood up because he believed that Jaggi was his brother. He would come
Mm.
out and speak on every single stage. And you know, at Smethwick, November 2017, when we had the first part after the protest, and straight away he was talking to the Sangat. He got the BBR to connect. He got the mothers that we lost our mum, but he got all the mothers to connect, to give us that PR, to actually show what happens in the state of India. And another thing a lot of people don't actually know was Advocate Manjpur was not able to go to court when Jaggi was detained. Khanda was the one that had a lawyer in Punjab and said, "Wait, don't worry, phone this person. I've told them, and he'll be there." That's the kind of connections he had. I know Jazz helped me politically at the time, but at that time we needed a lawyer to go to court, and it was Khanda that was able to arrange it. Whenever you wanted anything translated, Khanda was the one that you would contact and say, "Can you put this in Punjabi? We need this post shared." And the picture I've got is of him at the rally because I had to speak to him about something, and he said, "Vire, let's speak face to face. Let's speak at the rally. Are you coming on Sunday?" I said, "Yeah, we'll be there." And that's the picture that I've still got in my mind of him there, and I can't get that picture out because that's the picture of him smiling, saying, "We need to do this. We need to do this." And earlier on, I've watched some programs where they talked about the Professor Devindipal Singh Pullard protest, and they're saying, "Khande, you're the one that was at the Modi Setu when that Kesri Lair ran it. You sat there. We need to do this for Jaggi." And Khanda's like, we need to sit down and we need to do this." So he's going to be a massive loss. There's no doubt about it at all. He's a massive loss between the Nojwans. We've all felt it. I've seen Nojwans now crying, speaking to them crying that you would never think of that would cry because this was someone that was close to us. This was someone, like I said earlier, we know we're all going to go one day. But you know, when it's somebody close that's actually been there and touching to you, it's actually quite hard to actually digest. And he's going to be a massive loss. He was able
Yeah.
to speak, he was able to connect us to our roots. And I don't know how we're going to fulfill this loss that we're going to have within our community.
So thank you very much for that, Gurpreet Singh ji. So Sasangat ji, so I want to just bring to your attention. So this isn't just about Bhai Sahib, it's about their family as well. ਇਹ ਸ਼ਹੀਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਚੋਂ ਨੇ. So their family are families of shaheeds who have done Qurbani. So I'm sure their Tayaji was shaheed, their father was shaheed, their mother and family around them were harassed, tortured. They left everything and they still continued that movement. So however they could, they basically from what just picking out of some of the things that Gurpreet Singh Ji just said, Bhai Sahib was that one person that you would count on to be there. Now we're not like that. We get selfish. We got work. We got family commitments. We knew that if there's a program, Bhai Sahib's going to be there. He was like our rock in that sense. And you talk about people, crying, youngsters crying. I've been there. Done that myself. It's like the loss of a family member, but worse. The morning after you wake up and you think, wow, was this just a nightmare? Then you realize actually it's actually happened. And there's going to be a lot of us that actually weren't able to say goodbye. And some of it's selfish. We just want to that contentment that, yeah, we got there. But some of it is that, yeah, we knew that person had so much love for the Panth, that he had so much love for us. So someone told me that's when their mother went abroad, I think it was either America or Canada, one of the things said, if Bhai Sahib gets pakke in the UK, yeah, becomes a UK citizen, then they can invite you over. And Mataji paused at that point and said, Pot, since their father became Shaheed, I've never dreamt of such things. What I want is that my son does some kind of massive seva for the Panth. So that what kind of mother is that? We think historically, yeah. ਜਦੋਂ ਚਮਕੌਰ ਦੀ ਗੜੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਅਰਦਾਸਾਂ ਚ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਆ ਵੀ ਮਾਵਾਂ ਨੇ ਪੁੱਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਗਲਾਂ ਸਿਰ ਕਟਾ ਕੇ ਗਲਾਂ ਚ ਹਾਰ ਪਵਾਏ, that kind of thing, yeah. That this is the kind of ਕੁਰਬਾਨੀ that ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਮਾਵਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀਤੇ in history, that ਟੋਟੇ ਟੋਟੇ ਕਰਤੇ, ਚਰਖੜੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਚੜੇ, ਆਰਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਚਰਾਏ ਗਏ, ਫਿਰ ਵੀ ਈਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੰਨੀ, ਹਨਾ, ਪੰਥ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੂੰ, ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਨੀ ਪੈਠ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿਖਾਈ, ਫੇਰ ਵੀ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਲਓ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ. This isn't just historic, Khalsa ji, this is happening today. So this thing by Avtar Singh Ji Khanda was so motivated. It wasn't about what he had, but the love he had. So the Khalsa Bahir, when it was kicked off in the UK, started in Birmingham. And he took the time out to call myself specially and said, so at that point in time, we'd just selected the committee, and I'd had the Mok Sevadar Seva, and he said, Bhai Sahib, Bhaiji, he used to say Bhaiji, yeah, that was his kind of trademark. Straight away you kind of got love from the person. And he said, look, ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ, but secondly, I want to make sure that you're coming to kick off the Khalsa Bahir on the next Sunday. And I said, look, Bhai Sahib, I'm really busy, but I do want to come, but I don't know how I'm going to get out of here. And he said, look, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆ ਜਾਓ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਿਰਫ 5 ਮਿੰਟ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਇਓ, you do the initial starting speech, and then we'll start the Vahir off, and then you can go and you can meet the Vahir. He didn't even say just go. He said then you can join the Vahir later on throughout the day. That's how much thought he had, not just of what he was going to do, but he had planning in his mind. So this is just me he was connected with, but he's connecting with loads of other things as well for throughout the day, or whatever the Panthak movement was. So not just here, but abroad as well. It transpires that it wasn't just India, the UK. People are crying across the globe. The people that haven't even met this person. So what we need to take away from this is the positivity that what one person can do. We think we as individuals can't do nothing. Assi kalle ki kar sakde hain. This person seemed like he was a one-man army. He was joining Jathebandiyan, he was joining the youth, he was joining the Punjabis, he was joining people like from Italy, Canada, America. So this is the kind of motivation I think we need, and we need to learn from this. That Khalsa ji, ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਤੁਰਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ. We need to move together to do our praptiyan, to kind of gain whatever we need to gain from the situation. It looks really bad sometimes that what predicament we're in. It is a Tan Tan Guru Granth Sahib Ji that's going to get us out of this mess. But it's these, I want to use the word shahidiyan, which people are probably going to complain about. But, I've been torn about this. That can we use that word in this scenario? But mere sahab, I heard someone in Kathaya, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਤੁਰ ਪਿਆ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਤੁਰ ਪਿਆ ਪੰਥ ਲਈ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਰਾਹ ਤੇ ਤੁਰ ਪਿਆ, that ਜੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਦੀ demise ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ at some point and we've made that loss, then you do need to think about it like that. That is basically, look how much we've achieved through this person's seva. ਭਾਈ ਦਵਿੰਦਰਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੋਗੇ ਜੀ?
I'm going to try and make this personal in terms of all the TBC watchers, particularly older people, the mothers, they feel the pain of these things, but actually go back to his father. So Galwant Singh attained Shahidi at the age of 30. Born in 1961, and in 1991 he attained Shahidi. Just think about that for a minute. He was 5 years younger than Avtar Singh Khanda. And at that time, Avtar Singh was 3 years old, born in 1988. Now, the reason why this is so important is if we look at the Shaheeds, how many of their children have followed on that same path? I suspect, I can't immediately think of those Shaheeds in Singhania, and then their children in modern times have followed in their footsteps. So that in itself is worth thinking about. Then at the age of 19, a teenager, he comes to the UK. 2007, you can do the maths. The age of 19, he comes here. Therefore, he's been separated from his mother. His mother lost her husband within 5 years of marriage. She effectively hadn't seen her son for 16 years. She tried twice to come to the UK, but was unsuccessful. And it may be that the only time she'll be possibly coming to the UK is for his last rites. Now, the reason why I'm focusing on this is when you start putting this into numbers and look at it yourself, probably age of 3, age of 30, age of 35, his mother's probably only aged around 60, which is not very old. And look what she has experienced. Now, I wanted to start there, but also then move on to some of the things that have been mentioned. So in 2015, so this is, 8 years after his dossier that Narendra Modi gave to David Cameron when he visited in 2015, widely reported a dossier. Various names are mentioned, various organizations are mentioned, various gurdwaras are mentioned. But that's when Avtar Singh Khanda's name is highlighted by the Indian authorities to the UK authorities as this person apparently trains people in, making explosives. It was a complete fabrication. He left Punjab when he was 19, a teenager. He came here as a student. 8 years later, it occurred to you that he'd somehow been building explosives. If he had been building explosives, where were they used? So they started demonizing him when he was aged 27. And that demonization, I want to move to the present, that demonization was getting greater and greater. Firstly, because of his direct links with Deep Sidhu that you mentioned, Kuldeep Singh. And secondly, his links with Amritpal Singh. And if we talk about what happened on the 19th of March, so this was 18th of March, hundreds, if not thousands, of Sikh activists get picked up by the police, and a small group of Sikhs decide to protest outside the Indian embassy, and one person climbs up, removes the flag. That wasn't Avtar Singh Khanda. He may have been present, but the point is, being present at a protest does not make you a criminal. And the Indian authorities need to understand this. And so when Montgomery Singh talked about the National Investigation Agency, who are here, they've been here for 3 weeks, starting to share CCTV footage, share images of individual Sikhs, including Avtar Singh Khanda, then actually they need to realize that the Court of Appeal here has actually said even police CCTV footage can't really be used because it can be edited. All CCTV footage and stills show is people were present at a protest, nothing more, nothing less. It gives no context. And therefore, Avtar Singh Khanda wasn't arrested as reported by the Indian media. And I think, because we will talk about, Jaswant Singh talked about, a lot of people are speculating about how he died, what may have caused it. And one of the things that's clear is that Avtar Singh Khanda is not with us. What's clear is those blood clots caused the complication. Now, I'm not a doctor, but my understanding is that if you have blood cancer, that's very difficult to cause through some form of, let's say, poison. But blood clots can be induced. And I think, where this matter rests now with the senior coroner, with the police, I know we're going to touch upon this, is that will help not just Sikhs here, not just his next of kin, but also Sikhs across the globe that suspect foul play. And that time will tell. But I wanted to put a different spin on it. What's clear is he did have blood cancer. Now, if these so-called intelligence agencies that appear to know everything, they should probably have known then he had blood cancer. Now, I don't think it was diagnosed until the start of this week when he went into hospital. But the point is, they carried on with that demonization, that character assassination, and that's why people think this wasn't just a character assassination, it was a political assassination. That they finished him off, directly or indirectly, through their actions. And only time will tell is how much blame goes to the Indian authorities. But the fact that, and there'll be lots of people that are pro-Indian, probably listening to this program on PBC, think about this. This is the UK we're talking about. We're talking about the police launching an investigation. We're talking about the senior coroner looking at what really caused his death. Because what's clear was it was sudden. The cancer had only just been diagnosed, but the question marks are really around the blood clots. And with the National Investigations Agency being here, with them working very closely with Scotland Yard, we've seen all sorts of stories that haven't even stopped after Avtar Singh Khanda has passed away. They're sharing all sorts of rubbish on media. And therefore, I'd say to all those pro-Indian people, think about this. Here is a young man that came here in his teens, lost his father at the age of 3, had never seen his mother and sister for 16 years. And what do? Directly or indirectly, they kill him. I'm going to stop there because I know others will want to say things.
Yeah, I think it's worth, Baji, you touched on the police investigation. It's probably useful just to tell the Sangatam what is happening, because again, a lot of people on social media have been via the phone, have been ringing, do this, make sure you do this. And just to reassure everybody that all the UK Panth is collective on this. Everybody, all the Jathabandiyan, all the main youth activists were all together on Thursday and have constantly been in touch and working together. So what has happened, due to what Baidamindaji mentioned, the fact that it was very sudden, the fact that he's a high-profile individual, Pantak leader for not only the Najwan but for us all, the fact that he was that bridge between the youth and the UK and Punjab, especially with what the current uprising and the awakening of Punjabis was happening with Waris Punjab there. He is a high profile, but it's also very politically motivated. We've seen it with Jaggi's case. We saw it with the West Midlands 3. These are all interconnected because, as Gurpreet said, Avtar Singh was a primary activist in the Jaggi campaign. But there's also a huge concern if there is foreign interference here. As Baidamindaji said, the NIA have been in the UK, in London. They've put out on their official, whilst there might be fake accounts or bots or individuals propagating hate and disgusting things on Twitter, they really need to look at themselves and then question, why do people dislike the government of India and their principles? But officials, the NIA on their own website are issuing pictures, which is again to increase hate campaigns towards Sikhs. So in all these circumstances, all of these issues were raised. This was reported to the police. Police officers have now opened an investigation. They have restricted access to Paisaab's body, just in terms of any cross-contamination and ensure that it's secure. And it was escalated to the coroner, the importance of this case, the significance of this case, and also the external factors involved and the suspicion. And with that, this has been escalated to the senior coroner now. And the expectations are of not only the family, but all the collective Pant, that a full autopsy and post-mortem is carried out. We're awaiting confirmation of when that will be. We are exploring having private medical representation there. Ordinary individuals or family members can't, but you kind of point someone, so we're exploring that. And only then, after a full post-mortem and autopsy, will we have greater clarity around some of the suspicions that all of us have. And we are keeping an open mind, but we're also very aware of what has happened and what the Indian state is capable of. They have absolutely been complicit in the indirect harassment, demonization, and mental torture of Avtar Singh, how they completely put him up as enemy number one, that he personally was responsible for by Amritpal Singh being on the run for 37 days. And what many may not know, because Avtar joined us at the protest on the 22nd of March, where they said he'd been arrested and the British government were going to extradite him. He was standing in front of them. But the lengths they went to, they went and intimidated his mother and his sister with all kinds of evil that only the Punjab police would be capable of. They directly threatened them. Then they phoned Avtar Singh. A police officer phoned Avtar Singh and said, you know what we're capable of. We can go and pick up your mom and your sister. And in fact, they did pick them up that day. And they would pick them up for the next 3 or 4 days and return them in the evening. And that was the weight and the pressure a young man was carrying on his shoulders. Imagine that. And then he still didn't turn his back on the Pant. Some people get worried or scared, thinking, oh, should I go to this protest? Should I go to the June 1984 remembrance? What might happen? So this is a guy who is personally, family is being arrested, intimidated, and he still stood firm for the Pant, put the Pant first, and was the first one, as the Singhs have said. So that's the character we're talking about. Now, we owe it. It's our duty not to let this go until we can be as sure as we can, our own conscience will allow us to, that if some foreign body and foreign intelligence services or country has come into this country and carried out this kind of incident, this is a huge issue for us. Not only the UK government, the UK intelligence services, but for the Pant as a whole. Now, we're dedicated to pursuing truth.
Just
we get a date on the coroner, when he will conduct this autopsy, will certainly share that with the Sangat.
Yeah,
And
just
in terms of the plans for his funeral, the body being released, etc., all these things we'll share with you in due course.
just we're really low on time. Sorry, I'm gonna have to. We're pretty much there, so I didn't want to kind of cut in, but so can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Can
Kuldeep
you hear me?
Singh, if you don't,
Yep.
Yeah.
if you don't mind,
I just need to kind of wrap it up. So, with regards to the leukemia, blood cancer, I just did a quick search, and apparently there is agents and food that can kind of activate this kind of condition. So, we're not doctors, but there is stuff out there. So, by Gurpreet Singh, quickly, in 30 seconds, and then by Mankamal Singh ji, what would you like to say? And then back to me to say Fateh, please.
thank you, Kuldeep Singh. Like the rest of the panelists have said, Avtar Singh Khanda, whilst he was in the UK, advocated and he spoke up for human rights violations that take place. He was a son, a brother, and it's our obligation to make sure all the positivity that he spread is spread within the Sangat, and to make sure any unjust that happened to him that we highlight it. I've seen a couple of videos going about. It's our responsibility to stop those kind of videos going about, because at the end of the day, like the Bindaji Paji said, Avtar Singh's mum hadn't seen him for so many years, and there's these kind of nonsense videos going out and the so-called sex saying stuff. That's an obligation on us. That caused me a lot of heart and respect of seeing that, because he's someone that knows Khanda, that knew Khanda the way he was. He never got angry with everyone. His obligation was to keep everybody together. If Kuldeep Singh, me and you had an argument with each other, he would find a way to join us. He wouldn't say, let Kuldeep Singh go that way, Gurpreet Singh go that way. He would say, no, let's put them in one room, let's get the issues resolved. So it's an obligation that we have. We can't let his memory go. He's gone, but he will never be forgotten, because he is a huge, huge loss to this community, to the Pant, and for our future generations, because he had a lot of knowledge. And for somebody with limited education, the amount of knowledge he had was unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. So, by Bankamal Singh ji, before I just come over to you, some videos are being shared of ਜਦੋਂ Bhai Sahib actually, lost their life, when they were on that stretcher or bed, whatever you want to call it. I would request the Sangatan, please don't share those videos. Or positive video share karo, ਜਦੋਂ Bhai Sahib speeches ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ, ਜਾਂ the beautiful photos we have of them. Hanji Bankamal Singh ji, what do you want to say?
I mean, yeah, I'm just going to echo what Gurpreet Singh said as well. I mean, we have to eulogize Baisab in the messaging that he gave. Now, his last message, it's going viral. There was the most powerful message I've probably come across. I mean, how much? I don't know if people have come across this, but in that message, Baisab talks about Bana. He talks about accepting Guru's hukum. I know this is all part of Guru's hukum, and for everyone to stay in Chardi Kala. Very few people would have that opportunity and that bakshish in that last breath to actually have those words. So this actually tells us what kind of person, soul Baisab was when he was able to sort of part with that powerful message. So it's important for us to ensure that we understand the messages and we fight back against character assassinations. Too many people in our community are quiet. They tend to just stay silent. Horrible things that are going around at this point in time, combat them. There's no strength in staying silent. Combat them, answer back, and we've got to fight back on this social media battle of narratives that's currently taking place.
Welcome. Welcome. So, Bobo Tanwad, thank you to all our guests. What I do want to say, Sasangaji, is what Paisab just said there about Paisab's Chardi Kala message. So we're concerned, we're worried about what the family, what Paisab's sister and Paisab's mother are going through, but what Paisab's thinking at that point in time, when he actually doesn't have family around him, but he has the Panta around him, he has Sangatan around him, and he's telling us, he's worried about us being in Chardi Kala. And not just that, some of the things said as they were walking out on the night before he actually got put on the ventilator, he actually said, maybe we will meet again in another life, and smiled about it. Yeah. This is the kind of, we talk about history, and how strong our things were, we need to take inspiration from their life. So this is what I'm saying. So share their speeches, just same way as we're seeing speeches of Santaji, Bhai Amritpal Singh Ji, Deep Sidhu, ਹੁਣ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਭਾਈ ਅਵਤਾਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਇਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਸਪੀਚਾਂ ਦੇਖੋ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਵਾਇਰਲ ਕਰੀਏ take that inspiration, learn from them. But thanks to all our guests, thanks to the Sangata who've been watching. Sorry for any mistakes we've made today, but we are very passionate. I'm surprised we got through this show today without being emotional, but it is very close to our hearts. So thank you very much, Sat Sangat ji. Thank you to our guests. Fateh Bulaune ji, Waheguru ji ka Khalsa,
Ji ka Khalsa,
Waheguru ji ki Fateh.
Bye.
Waheguru ji ki